Hi, I'm Marilyn Powell, and I have a small ranch, and I got very interested in this once I retired, and after taking care of elderly parents, and my partner developed cancer and was no longer able to do anything anymore, and did not win at the cancer treatments game. So I said, I have to have something to keep me going here, and I've always been curious of reading everything I can about minerals, and being a nurse, I know I have good health. I know about vitamins and minerals, and I choose not to take any medications, and at my age, that's pretty unusual. So just got started being interested in what was going on in the ranching business, and this place was grown up with brush pretty much when I was able to buy it, and I said, well, I'll just have time and I'm going to take care of that. So little by little, kill out the brush, start putting better grasses in, develop two hay fields. One is 30 acres and the other 10 acres, and that was mostly covered with very large mesquite trees. So it took quite a long time with dozing and raking and so forth, but finally got it done and had it planted. Little field in Tifton and the larger field in Guardo, which is a blue stem. And I'm understanding now that blue stem in this area is one of the better things of our longevity, and I'm seeing that is true. That does work well. But you have to replace the nutrients, and you have to try to not have to spend all your money at the feed store. So wanting to get better at that, and I met up with my cousin, Wayne Wolf, who was using Nature's Formula, because he had heard about it. He said, you got to come over here and take a look at my grass. And his grass was so pretty. I said, yeah, I'll try that. Let me know who it is. So I called Travis, and Travis was wonderful. He came and he tells, all about what it is and how to do it and so forth. And he's been really helpful. And not only do I use the Nature's Formula and the additive, but as well I've used drench for the cattle. And he's been so good to come, and when we have cattle working day, then he'll come and give it to them. Or even when I have heifers at the vet's office for their heifer tune-up, he comes there and puts the drench with them, and I can see that it definitely helps them. It just decreases the stress, and they go right back on food, and they act normally rather than it taking a week to get them settled back down after all that ordeal. So how we started that out was, I said, okay, we want to see if, how can you tell whether it's really doing any good? And Curtis, my son's friend from college, he said, well, I'll come and help you, and we'll go ahead and just do a little test triangle, which we did. And we did that little section right where the cows are right now. That's their favorite spot, and they will go right there first and eat that because they like that whatever is growing there. And it was amazing how green that came up. And also that's the place that when the rain, we had a pretty good rain after that one application, and there was a little trail of it that was real green downhill. And Curtis said, well, what's going on with that? What's happening there? I said, well, Curtis, that's because that was a runoff, And so we agreed with that. And then the other thing was that I had so much trouble with the army worms. They would come on that dry hill, just like right behind you there, at those little brown patches. I'm pretty sure that's army worms right there. So I would have the co-op come. Last fall, they had them just in various areas, and I think I had 3 applications in the fall. They would come and put regular fertilizer. They would put the Nature's Formula, which Travis would bring to them because they agreed that they would put it in the spray rig with it, and worm killer, which is very, very expensive. And there's another type that is for residual. You can put that in there, but it costs like twice as much. And I didn't know if it was, I haven't used that yet because of the fact that I thought, that's just so expensive. I'll wait and see what I can get done without that. So that's basically what we did with the triangle. Then down in the hay field, he put a little rag. He had a rag in his truck, and he put a rag on the fence, and he said, okay, in the hay field, what we're going to do is we're going to take this hay field and divide it into 3 sections. So he did fertilizer from the co-op on the west side, and fertilizer just from the Nature's Formula with the additive. on the east side, and you would not have believed the difference between the height of that and the green, how green that grass was. Then the little field, which is 10 acres, which is behind it, but it is closer to the river, and I am very sure, I haven't put up a rain gauge yet, but I'm just very sure that it rains more there because of the river. And so it got a little more water, but it was so thick that when they were cutting it the first time, in fact, it stopped up their cutter, so they came back and got my old cutter, which was a little bit not as wide, so they weren't trying to cut as much. So my old cutter cut most of that field. And then when they got to using the tedder on it, it stopped the tedder up because it was so thick. It was as high as that tractor was in the big field. So that was the test, the big test. And after that, then I started doing it on the pastures. A little plot that's next door over there, because I do grass rotation, grazing rotation. So the next thing I'll do is I'll open those gates right over there, but first I'll have somebody come and get some of that hay. That hay right there came out of that little field at the bottom, but I'll have that hay put over here. I figured out that you cannot put all the hay in one plot, because what if you get a grass fire? Then all your hay's gone. So I have a trap there, I have a trap in the front of the house, I have a trap right there behind the house, and then one a little further down the hill. And that, if you look through the fence over there, you can see they haven't been in there in a month. So look how high that grass is over there compared to what you have in here where the cows are. You can't deny it because it's working. And just putting it out, and it's not all that frequent anymore that I get it, that I'm putting it out. Plus, we have had tremendous amount of problem with drought this past year. So, you know, it's just amazing. The early part of the summer last year, or the early part of the year, it really was hard. But then we had that really big rain in July. I think they're saying, what did we have, 10 inches, 12 inches around here somewhere? It was a lot. And that, then you couldn't get in the hayfield. So therefore it got a little bit more of a tour, which is probably why some of the bale numbers are not as good as you would have thought they would have been. But when you get 225 bales, that's big round bales, they weigh 1,350 pounds apiece off of 40 acres. That's quite a large amount. So it was a move of about probably 4 bales to the acre.
With the Plus B, have you noticed the spots that had the Plus B on it versus what didn't? A definite difference in the damage of the armyworms?
Yes, and that triangle right there, yes.
My name's Justin Albright, born and raised in Mission Valley, Texas, a few miles down the road. I come into play as the hay man. I got introduced to Miss Powell to bale some hay when they were in a bind, and from then we've just kind of taken over her operation in the hay field. So I drive the tractor, do all the cutting, baling, and stuff like that. The biggest thing I can say about it, what I've seen is in the 3-4 years we've been doing this process, you know, in year 2 and 3, the grass got significantly thicker at the ground. I mean, we come into the hay field when we get the phone call that it's ready, and the grass would look okay. It's got some height to it, but we would always kind of question it, and then we get in there and start cutting, and just the tonnage, it's there. I mean, it's thick. It's even tough to walk through. I mean, you trip your feet up when you get down on the ground, so I'm seeing the benefit in the root growth and stimulation, and I mean, it's just a lot more tonnage being put on the ground. You see greenness coming in sooner, but I think you kind of get a balance of, you get a quick result as far as helping your grass and stuff, but then in the long run, I think you really benefit it because you're getting that soil healthy. I mean, everything you take out of it. When we take a bale of hay off the property, we've taken nutrients from the ground, we've taken microbes, you name it. So we're just putting everything back in there, and I think in the long run, you see a huge benefit, but all in all, short and long benefits are very good.
I'll tell you what, it makes a difference as to who you deal with. The fact that you all are out here today, you're collecting information and getting it from the people who are really using it, who are really interested, and who really need to know. They're asking you, they're feeling comfortable ask you the questions that they want to know. They know that you're not going to be demeaning and so on and so forth.
If you could pick one favorite thing about the BioSure Grow, what would that be?
Well, I would say just the fact that you've got grass like looks green like this. You're not walking onto a ranch or where you have cows standing there and there's not a stalk of green grass. So it looks good and you know that it's doing. And then the fact that does definitely have something to do with the armyworms, and because like y'all heard me say, my fears and screwworms and tetanus and armyworms, they're all equal in my book of I hate these. Well, that plus the money. If you look at what you're paying, if you're doing fertilizer, and if you have your own equipment to put your stuff out with, you cut out that fee too, so, and if you don't have to use as much of it. Plus, like the co-op, they have no control over what the fertilizer is going to be because of the fact that it comes up and goes down. And so you're going to have to pay. In years when it's really, really expensive, people cut down on it. Well, that's the worst thing for the soil. If you're trying to build that, if you cut down on it, then you know for sure it's sort of like if you're doing a period of exercises so you can build strength in your leg, and you say, okay, well, for 2 months I'm not going to do that. Well, guess what? You're going to be right back where you started. So I draw a lot from my old nursing experience. I'm treating the soil like I'm treating the body. That, I would say, that's the most important thing to me, is all that research is good. And I even listen to things like, okay, if your cows are always jumping when they come out of your chute, it's because your chute is not level on the floor. Cows they have a depth perception problem. And now I have that, and I can really understand why a cow jumps when they go. So if you put a little pad there or some bricks or something, so where they see it's level, they'll run right out of there without jumping. Interesting. They also, the reason they teach the cowboys how to run cattle is that you always want to turn them counterclockwise. And the reason for that is they have two eyes, but they're on the side of their heads. They only see well with that left eye. So that's why you turn them counterclockwise. Does that not make sense? Yeah. So you learn little things like that just by listening. So I said, no dogs and no hot shots on my animals. Well, how are we going to get them to move? And I said, well, you just gently, they'll go, they're gentle. If you don't make any sudden moves, if you show them which way, and you take them counterclockwise instead of trying to go clockwise around a gate, then they're going to go. And so I said, maybe we need to have a certificate for cattle workers, because you should be able to depend on them knowing certain things.
Do you plan on continuing to use nature's formula in the future?
Yes, definitely. Certainly interested in making this place better, and leave it to my kids and grandkids someday.
I'm Curtis Albright from Mission Valley, Texas, and been involved in ranching since I can remember. Around the 70s, Dad farmed and ranched out at Mission Valley, and kind of been involved in it ever since. Mrs. Marilyn Powell needed some help putting some out about 3 years ago, so I went and gave her a hand with it, and she convinced me to try it out and use it, and been real satisfied with the results. One thing that I like to always bring to everybody's attention is we added the Plus B in it, and what that does, if insects come and eat the forage that's been sprayed with that, it'll reduce the population. Very beneficial with armyworms and grasshoppers. I saw the benefits a couple of years at Miss Powell's place with it. One time was going up to cut hay for her. Grasshoppers were thick in the pasture that hadn't been sprayed with the BioSure Grow and the Plus B. And then once we got into the hayfield and kind of made a few rounds, there was less and less grasshoppers. So I really felt that it did the job that it's intended to do. It seems like the forage is a lot stronger and better in the areas that initially we were using it on Miss Powell's hayfields. Now she's pretty much spraying her pastures and everything with it. One thing I did do when she had me come out and help her, I convinced her, I said, let's split your hayfield and let's do half the hayfield, because if we do the whole thing, we don't know what benefit we're getting. So I split it, and then for the next 2 years you could see a definite line where the benefit was, where we sprayed. And then we also went up and did a little bit of pasture up on the hill. She said she had an area that didn't grow forage very well up there and everything, so we sprayed that, and she kept an eye on it and went back out, and she showed me where we had sprayed, and had a pretty good driving rain after it, and it kind of ran downhill a little bit, and you could definitely see where where it carried down the hill, and didn't have as much insect pressure there because of the Plus B, and then you just had a little better stand of forage and everything right there. Another side note with it, I had some at the house that I had used, and so I had a small amount left, and I just put it in a sprinkling can and went out in the yard and kind of thought I was doing a pretty even application in the yard. Well, I learned that I streaked it pretty good, so you know, you could definitely see where you went with the sprinkling can, where I went with the sprinkling can and sprinkled it. It took it about 2 years to kind of even out to where I didn't have a few streaks through the yard, you know, but as long as you kept it mowed down short, it wasn't too bad, but it would always outgrow everything and it would start looking bad. So, but it definitely does its job, knowing that, you know, you're not going to hurt the environment or anything, and then just your personal safety as well. You're not worried, you know, about getting it on your skin and in your eyes or anything else. You know, it's natural and it's not harmful. Miss Powell has been sampling at her ranch for years, and we've seen benefits from the use of the BioSure Grow in the hay fields, and then also she samples her forage, her hay as well, and we had some hay test really good after using it for a couple of years, and we feel that the BioSure Grow was partially responsible for that. And the good thing is the cost is not crazy. It's something that you can use on a continual basis without breaking the bank, and I think you're going to see some good benefits in your forage and your grass production. After using it a couple of years, we've seen the need for nitrogen go down. Some of the soil samples was suggesting 95 units of nitrogen, and after using it for a couple of years, the soil samples was wanting 35 units of nitrogen, so that was a pretty good decrease there. And then likewise, we saw the forage samples go from on the Tifton hay, we were at 5.7% crude protein, and after a couple of years, we were 11.1% crude protein, and then on the Gordo field, we were 5.6 crude protein up to a 10.6 crude protein, and feel like probably some of the timing of the baling, no doubt, had something to do with that, but really feel that the BioSure Grow helped us to achieve those numbers also, while being able to decrease the amount of nitrogen that the soil samples were calling for. So it's a very helpful and economical product that helps you helps your bottom line, especially with these high fertilizer prices. When you can increase your crude protein like that and then decrease the amount of nitrogen you need, your return on investment is much better. And then after a couple of years of using the BioSure Grow on the hay fields, we've had some bumper crops. Mother Nature had something to do with it in the rain, but Mrs. Powell and myself don't feel like it was 100% the rain, because it wasn't a real crazy rainfall year, and I don't have those numbers in front of me, but the hay was a lot thicker and a lot more bales made on those fields. We feel like it's improved the soil health and enabling the better utilization of rainfall and nitrogen and the nutrients in the soil to increase the quality and the quantity as well.